Hey YouTube! Okay, so this is a video I've wanted to make for a couple of weeks now. It isn't a new or revolutionary idea, concept, whatever. I have no idea really why I want to make this video, but I do, so I'm going to. One thing that I have heard over and over and over again as a writer and as a psych student is the speculations about the correlations between creativity and mental illness. It's something people have talked about for a very long time. It's something that's been, I know that there are research studies. Sorry, it's raining. It's been raining for 2 days. My bones hurt like hell and I'm kind of fidgety. Anyway, I know that there are research studies on it, and I know that it's something that's talked about a lot in psychology. But none of the research studies that I've read, which, keep in mind, I have only read research studies on this particular topic for school. This was not a topic that I read about for fun. When I read psychological studies for fun, they're usually case studies. I love case studies. I'm like a case study junkie. Some are super interesting, some are really fucking boring, but I love case studies. That's what I read. But none of the case studies that I have read, and keep in mind there are few, have really explained the possible correlation in a way that I agree with. So, I'm going to give you guys my theory on this. It's pretty well known that a lot of creative people, past and present, have some kind of mental illness. Virginia Woolf, for instance, was bipolar. Excuse me. Van Gogh was bipolar. Poe had severe depressive disorder, or major depressive disorder, which fueled his addictive tendencies and all that kind of shit. And these are, these are not like things that a psychiatrist or a psychologist was able to sit down with them and talk about. Maybe Virginia Woolf, because that was in the 20s and psychology was, a thing then. But definitely not Poe, and I don't think Van Gogh. But there's been, a lot of talk about that for a very long time. For one thing, the correlation between mental illness and creativity seems to be like a hotbed for addiction. And I think a lot of the times people focus more on the addiction aspect than they do the potential mental illness aspect. When you hear about Poe and his issues, you normally hear he was an absinthe addict and he was an opium addict. You don't hear, well, he suffered from depression his entire life. I think that people tend to look at the symptom and not the disease in that aspect. I personally have heard jokes my whole life about being an alcoholic and a writer because they seem to go hand in hand together. Well, I mean, I was an alcoholic, but I don't know that it had a goddamn thing to do with being a writer. My family is very prone to addiction, and that was mine. But, here is my theory on this, okay? And I could be totally off, and there could be case studies or studies, research studies that have already talked about this and covered this, and I am in no way presenting a new idea. I don't know, but here's what I've concluded. When I write, I see in my mind, as if, it was right there, what I'm writing about. I am so engrossed in the scene that reality, if I'm really deep in and it's a really good writing moment, reality is in the background. It's almost the same type of mental state as meditation. Not the super, super deep meditation, but like you just got there and you're just getting into it kind of meditation, because you still know that everything is around you and you still hear things and all that, but your mind is not there. And that's not typical. I don't want to say normal because normal is a fucking relative term. That's not typical. Generally speaking, I think a lot of people do it when they read, but that's kind of, reading prompts it to happen. I don't think a lot of people can almost will themselves into a state where they see things like that in their mind. I know that I personally cannot hear music in my head, and for people who can, they just hear it, and it's in their mind, and that's how they create it. I can envision paintings, I just can't paint. But not everybody can do that either. So my theory is that the reason that creativity and mental illness of all types seem to go so hand in hand together is because it takes a chemical imbalance to be able to create these things. Not that that's a bad thing. I personally think that I don't want to say psychology needs an overhaul, but I do think that the way that they look at the human mind and human behavior and what causes what and the way that they handle situations is not always conducive to the health of people, mental or physical. There have been a lot of things that I have read about and studied that I completely disagreed with. The overuse of medication being one of them. But at any rate, when my depression doesn't correlate with my writing. I think I've said before that I either go one of two ways. I either write a whole bunch when I'm depressed because I'm like escaping my depression through writing, or I'm so fucked up in the head that I can't write at all. It isn't that I think that the mental illness is what fuels creativity. I just think that the chemical imbalance that causes the mental illness aspect also may contribute or cause a person to be able to do things that lead to writing novels, short stories, poems, creating paintings and sculptures, creating music, that sort of thing. And again, I may be totally off on this. It's just a theory that I had and something that I wanted to kind of talk to you about and see what your opinions are. Because I know that there are a few writers out there. Cheryl, I'm talking to you. And I just wanted to know how you guys feel about it and what your opinions are. So, comment, make videos, talk to me, people. I hope you guys all have a beautiful day, and I hope you remember to smile.